right, we are jumping into the headliner here, brought to you by Bruno's Pizza, $15.99 any large in order today at Bruno's ND. Today we have a great headliner for you, a leader in live entertainment industry, the man of the Ralph Engelstad Arena, Denny Sanford Premier Center, and now currently the GM of the Chesapeake Energy Arena in Oklahoma City. We have Chris Semrau with us today. Thanks for joining us, Chris. How are you?
Hey, it's great to be on the podcast. Congratulations on kicking this off. It's good to be with you.
Hey, thanks for coming.
Thank you. Let's jump. We have a couple things in common here. Let's talk about a little bit of background to you. I'm a North Dakota guy, and it just so happens you are as well. So grew up, all that good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I graduated from Minot High School back in '96 and grew up in Western North Dakota, and then moved out east to Grand Forks, where I went to University of North Dakota and graduated in 2000. And so I've been all over the state and consider it home, and really appreciate all the wonderful aspects North Dakota has to offer before I moved down to South Dakota just a few years ago.
Excellent. So Minot, North Dakota, we have one of our very own, Brandon Ralph. You know that he's
Brandon Ralphie?
He's a Minot grad as well. So we're all over the place, right? With that connection is great. ACMs, let's jump in that. You had a little bit of you worked with the ACMs for a long time. You know, we have a lot of country music listeners. Let's hear a little bit about that and your experience.
Well, I've been really fortunate over the years to touch various corners of the industry and had the opportunity to work in various capacities for the Academy of Country Music, putting on, some pre-shows for them, days leading up to the festival, some post-events. And it was fantastic. It was great to see how an award show comes together. That's very, very different than the sports and entertainment that I grew up working. So it was awesome. It was a part of the 50th annual event at Texas Stadium. And it was a very, very valuable experience because you got to see lots of the folks on the road that you dealt with when they came to your venue. So to strengthen those relationships and hopefully leverage those to bring in more content to your facility. So even to this day, it's fun to host a tour and somebody will be on the tour and say, hey, remember that concert on Fremont Street in Vegas 7 years ago? And you can share a story that's outside of the normal just arena world. So super valuable experience. I'm very thankful for it.
So what's your favorite memory or moment from doing that or working with the ACMs?
I think it was just the challenges we overcame with, them picking out a parking lot off the strip and saying, put on a festival, or go downtown, to Fremont Street and put on the biggest record-breaking attendance show they've ever had. And a lot of, nuances and challenges that come into a space that you had never even been to before, and trying to execute a safe and successful event. So once it was done and it worked, it was very gratifying and really built up the energy leading to the award show each April.
Nice.
That's great. Yep. Now, the beginning of your career, towards the beginning, you had a lot to do with the beautiful, beautiful arena up in Grand Forks, the Ralph Engelstad Arena, where majority of our listeners know that that's big for the UND hockey team and NCAA and all that great stuff. And you had a major impact or major involvement in that. Take us through that. I mean, that had to be crazy.
Well, the journey at the Ralph, like many great journeys, started on spring break in Las Vegas. And I had a chance to...
Nice.
Wait, you said spring break in Las Vegas?
Yeah, not all bad things happen on spring break, right? There's a lot of good things that come out of spring break.
I'd care to
all business. All business.
That's right. And so I had a chance to meet Mr. Engelstad on that spring break trip right after he announced his gift to the University of North Dakota to build the facility. And I had a chance to tell him, I just want to be a part of it. And he said, we're not there yet, but someday when we'll stay in touch. And we did, and had the opportunity to come on as one of the original 4 employees, and didn't know what I didn't know at all. But we had a great team of people that worked very hard, and we laid out the plans and built this facility that I think to this day is still one of the nicest venues in the world. And it's 19 years old, I think. It still feels new when you walk through it. So that's a testament to the staff they have, who take such pride in what they do there. And really, it's a hallmark venue, not only in hockey, but in sports all over the world. So super blessed to stay in my own backyard, to start off in the sports and entertainment industry and not have to move to a major market to do so. Did it right in Grand Forks, North Dakota.
So did you meet him at the craps table, or how'd that work out?
No, he had a special, the Mai Tai bar in the back of the Imperial Palace he would go to at night, and we met there, and it's still a special place, and we think about him often, and I was super blessed to start my career working for somebody of that stature who I learned so much from.
So it's interesting. I called it the REA, you called it the Ralph Engelstead Arena, and you called it the Ralph. So which is it?
I think it's all interchangeable, right? I think a lot of the locals call it the Ralph, and Engelstead Arena is probably the most common, but I think they're all appropriate.
Nice. It was a bet. We were sitting there, I'm tapping the area, and Luke's like, no, it's the Ralph Engelstead Arena. And I'm like, okay. You seem very set in your ways about that.
So after the Ralph, we'll call it, after the Ralph, your journey took you down to the Denny Sanford Premier Center down in Sioux Falls. I mean, that was a great move. And all of a sudden you're managing that whole, and also the convention center, I believe, as well. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a older 60-year-old arena convention center, and then we built this new facility. Right. And so I arrived about 8 months before it opened, and was very excited because I was actually born in Sioux Falls and lived in the east and west side of South Dakota. So it was kind of a full circle to come back there, and I just wanted to leave my fingerprints on opening that facility. But I'll never forget the first trip I took. The first month I was there, I went to Rodeo Drive and sat in the agent's office in Beverly Hills, and I said, I just moved to Sioux Falls, and we're going to build a brand new arena there. And he looked at me and said, why?
It's fair.
He's like, you sure about that?
He said, we're not coming there. We're not coming to South Dakota. Like, why are you wasting your time? I said, no, it's going to be great. It's a great community and great part of the country and beautiful facility. So I'm sure it is. But was never a supporter at the beginning. But that facility opened up and had a real remarkable start because there was that pent-up demand and people wanted quality entertainment in that part of the country. And it quickly became one of the hottest Midwest venues. And I remember about 18 months later going back into that same office in Beverly Hills. And I think to this day, that person is one of the biggest champions, advocates for the Denny Sanford Premier Center, because he's seen the success that's tangible, and you can't argue with that. And they have great experiences when they come there, and it sells tickets, which is the bottom line. So worked there for 4.5 years, an amazing crew there, and they still do a great job today.
It's funny because in talking about Indie Country Fest or some of those issues.
Sound familiar?
It really sounds familiar. I grew up in Cody, Wyoming, which, my first concert was in Casper, and we go to Billings for everything that we do. Luke was talking about Bismarck and that there was nothing around. That was one of the reasons why you started Indie Country Fest, is to provide that sort of entertainment.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, if you build it, they will come. We'll fill the dreams there, and artists will come, people will come, and then it turns into from a 1-day to a 3-day event.
And the hospitality that the Dakotas bring just in general with the culture and the people there is just, I believe, I'm a champion for that, but it's a second to one. Yeah. And it's second to none, To
build on that comment, though, if you build it and they'll come, I think growing up in North Dakota, I think you learn more to create your own opportunities.
Right.
And North Dakota isn't the entertainment superhighway, right? And so people aren't looking to tour maybe there, or they're not looking to hire somebody from there. And so I think we've learned to shape the bushes and be proactive and create our own opportunities, like you guys are doing that. You're taking risk and you're building something that's going to be very, very successful for many years to come. And you're doing it the right way, and that's going to pay off. But again, it's not somebody bringing that in and dropping it down and having you work on it. You are creating it and you are building it. And I think that's remarkable.
It's kind of interesting because he talked about, a parking lot on Fremont Street, and it's kind of like the empty field where you're like, all right, I'm going to put
where are you going to put 1,000 cars?
Yeah.
We got to go talk to the guy that owns that field over there.
Where's the stage going to be? All of that. And it's kind of that same vision. You two have a lot in common.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Then it takes you down to where you're at right now, currently the GM of Chesapeake Energy Arena. Wow. Amazing, right? Amazing facility, amazing location in Oklahoma City. You've done a lot there, and accomplished a lot in our view, right? One of the things that we're looking at. I mean, it's amazing.
We looked at some of when we did our background research, I noticed that, it's one of the top 50 U.S. venues. After you went there, 2 of the top acts in the top 50 tours were showing up, now 11. And then ticket sales was the big thing that I noticed. You went from like 103K from when you got there to like doubling to 225K in tickets. Is that just you leveraging those relationships that you had built up through the ACMs and those sorts of things? Or what did you do to make it better?
Well, great question. And we've been here 2 years now, and the laser focused goal was increasing the quantity and quality of tours in Oklahoma City.
Right.
And the first thing I did is I went out and brought onto our team one of the best booking guys in the country. His name's Michael Owens, and we started at the same time. And I hope by the two of us attacking it, it would give us a fighting chance at Oklahoma City to turn it around. But it's like turning the direction of ocean liner. It's a click at a time. It's not overnight, but we're so thankful. The difference in the last 2 years with building a savvy marketing team and create a whole new proactive approach to booking and not just waiting for the phone to ring. I think the results have started to come in, and 2020 was going to be potentially the best year we ever had in almost 20 years. And just in April alone, we had Pearl Jam and Foo Fighters and Michael Bublé and several others. And we are so excited for this year, which has taken 2 years to build toward. And obviously all that's been put on pause, but it's been a great experience to be here and work with the professional sports angle with the NBA is at a whole different dynamic. And it's been fantastic. And I learn every single day and work with some great, just professional folks on the sports and entertainment side. And we're very thankful to be here.
So how has entertainment changed from when you started, back in 96 spring break, let's say up until March, because we'll go into post-COVID
We'll get into that later.
Because that's a whole nother world. But how did it change from 96 until 2019?
Yeah.
Well, on the venue side, I think there's more and more great venues every year, but there's not necessarily more touring acts every year. So for supply and demand, it gets more competitive all the time, which drives prices up to book talent, and competition is fierce, especially down in this market where you're in between Kansas City and Dallas and Denver, and there's great markets in between. So every show is a street fight. And so, but I think that's where, again, growing up in North Dakota has helped, because we had to go get all of those shows back in the day. So we were proactive. We were fighting for them, and South Dakota as well. So applying that same approach here, opposed to just answering the phone, I think has really paid off, and building a great team. But I tell you what, the industry is changing all the time, from ticketing to security. Every single year it evolves, and it's getting more challenging, and it's tough to make deals. The deals that we're cutting are tighter and tighter every year. The only thing tighter than the deals we cut are some of the V-neck shirts that Luke wears on these podcasts.
Yeah, you like
He
those?
wore a shirt.
Do you like this one today? I thought you'd appreciate this. Little Dolly Parton.
She's an angel and a treasure.
Yes, one of my very favorite.
So when Luke and I were sitting down, we're kind of figuring out who we wanted to have as a guest, and we were pitching guests back and forth, and he was pitching you. He was talking about the venues and working in the industry and how that's affected. And then he's like, yeah, he's the general manager for the Chesapeake Arena. I think that's Oklahoma City. Maybe the Thunder is what you said.
I knew it was the don't be playing that.
So we're sitting there, I'm driving, and I'm like, oh, wow, that's a great interview, because you're literally ground zero for, I don't want to call it the end of the sports world, but a frozen out sports world.
Frozen pause
in time, because literally Rudy Gobert gets tested positive. The game's what? You're seating fans at that point. How do you go from seating fans, getting people out, and then, the change? You're like there in time. It's a crazy,
it's wild
right?
position to be in. But not only that, it was the whole entertainment industry.
Right.
Yeah, the brief snapshot that night is it's amazing how fast things changed. And it was, I think, 6:40, and I was on the concourse before the game, and I got a call that said the governor wants to take a very important phone call. Can you let him into the conference room? So I ran down and let the governor into the conference room, and he said, I've got a call come in. I said, no problem, you can take it right here. His phone rang. I said, I'll leave you alone. He said, nope, you should stay for this. Oh. And he put on speakerphone, and it was one of the head health officials for the state that told the governor, you now have COVID-19 in Oklahoma City. And I think he said, no, we don't. We have no positive tests yet. And he said, no, you do now. So a member of the Utah Jazz tested positive a short time ago. He said, are they in town for the Thunder today? And he said, yeah, we're at the arena right now. Like the game is in 20 minutes. Like we're going to do announcing the players shortly. And so immediately we engaged some of the Thunder leadership and got the owner up to the conference room where we explained to him what was going on. And he called Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, and let him know that we have a problem in Oklahoma City. And the quick determination was made to stop and get the players off the court. They were getting ready to do tip-off.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the team doctor ran on the court, stopped it, got the players off the court. We all headed down to the locker room area and had a fast deliberation and a crisis management of what do we do? And we need to egress and evacuate the building safely and slowly. And this is right when everything was kind of breaking nationally. So nobody really knew, and it was new in the area, and no one knew anybody that had contracted it. And so you didn't know how severe it was or wasn't. But we announced that the game was being postponed and folks had to leave the facility, and our staff did a great job getting them out, but our staff didn't know what was going on either. And so really from that point on, the domino started to tip, and we had Cher scheduled the next night in our facility, and she was in town, and they were getting ready to load in that night. And so we had to be nimble and flex that. And once the NBA suspended play, the next day was really the darkest day in sports, where every league stopped, the March Madness canceled, and every single tour then stopped, postponed, or canceled, all within that 24 hours. And the domino really tipped at Chesapeake Arena in Oklahoma City.
I just remember.
That's when it really hit me. Well, when it was like, whoa, this is for real. Like I didn't think, I knew it was for real and all that, but when all of a sudden, like you said, it was the darkest day, all of a sudden everything, for me, it felt like everything just stopped.
Do you remember that first text message or that first notification on my phone where, tested positive, and then I was like, oh, here we go. And it was boom, they're tested positive, the game's delayed, they're moving people out of the arena, and then boom, everything shuts down right after that. We were looking at ASU going to the March Madness, and it's like, how are they going to get that to go? We're going to get ready, we're going to plan, we're going to maybe go, and then boom, that shut down. And then, like you said, you had Cher in town, you had to flex that out. I was reading that they had to go in and just shut the hotel the Jazz were staying at and clean that down. And then Bublé's out. My wife would have been super sad. She loves that dude.
Who doesn't? And
then Pearl Jam out. And then what do you do? Like for this period of time now? Are you scheduling people? Are you flexing out till next year like everybody else had to do? How does that affect your job?
Yeah, it's been a real hard 7 months. It's been, we're still closed as a facility. We have no events, don't anticipate any in 2020. It's been hard. It's hard with making decisions on furloughs and layoffs, and you trying to take care of your staff and look out for them and keep that company culture while managing budget crisis, because you are generating $0 of revenue. Right. You have expenses, and that's not sustainable over time, of course. Right. And so every single day is full of industry calls or committees or, how do we return to events safely and hosting appropriately? And we're booking out, a year or 2 years in advance because everything's being pushed back. And so there's so many moving parts, and it's been a tough time. And unfortunately, it's not over yet. And this is going to continue on for a little while. The only real key out of this is getting a vaccine that is adapted and adopted across the country by enough folks so we can safely return to indoor events, which will be the last thing to return to normal.
Right. Roughly, I know that you don't have the exact answer for this, but for 2021, when do you see that happening, and what capacity? From outdoor, I know you deal with many things. So even from outdoor events to indoor events, are they going to run at 50% capacity? What do you see, or what do you anticipate? Like you said, you're on calls every single day about this subject.
The business model doesn't work well for majority of the tours to play to anything other than a full capacity house.
Right. Yeah, we were talking about
staggered seating.
We were talking about that today because Nathaniel Ratliff had a 5-day show at Red Rocks, and I think it's $15,000 to rent the arena each day, and it's 175 fans that are allowed in. How do you make money on that?
But what else do you see for 2021 on the capacity issues? I know that it doesn't make sense for a tour for 100%, but go ahead, expand on that.
I think there'll be limited capacity, if any capacity, until springtime in most places, especially the major markets on the coast are challenged. Really, I think tours will resume next summer for indoor play. I think there'll be some stuff in the spring, but really it's trying to salvage next summer at this point as an industry, I believe. And that's not being doom and gloom. I think that's just the reality of how far things are pushing out. Most of our conversations are the second half of 21 and beyond right now, opposed to the springtime. And being indoors is very different than being outdoors. And so I think, if it takes 6 months to lead up to a tour, if somebody wants to go out in March, they need to decide today to install the equipment, to rehearse, to plan, to book, to schedule, to go in March. But if they're not sure that they can play to the capacity they need to, deciding today doesn't work, and so they're going to wait until they're sure. Well, if you don't have a vaccine out until first quarter 21, and they decide to go at that point, now you're late summer at the earliest for that major tour to get on the road. And then what happens when you have a log jam of content? And then will consumer confidence be there to come back to venues? Will people financially be able to afford them? There's so many questions and dominoes that we just don't know the answer to. What I do know is that entertainment always wins, and people will always find a way to support it, and they need it, and they want to come out for it. We're in the business of making memories, and that will never go away. It'll never be out of fashion or be retired. It's going to happen, whether it's February or next September. It's going to return, and it's going to be great. And I hope people will appreciate it much more then than they did before, as I will, going in the future.
And I believe they will too. Just a weird little example. My son and I tried to go to a high school football game the last weekend, right in Arizona here.
Spoiler alert.
Limited capacity, right? But we couldn't go in because they were sold out. We couldn't get tickets. That's later on in the show, I'll tell you. But we were so wanting to go, and even just that urge, there's so much pent up need for just to be together and make that memory. And I want to make that memory with my son and all that kind of stuff. And it was we're just talking a simple high school football game.
It's tailgating, college football, or the Sun Devils, going to a show.
Everything.
We were, my Band's in Town app popped up and said somebody was playing next weekend or this weekend. And I'm like, hey, I don't even know who this band is, Elefantante.
And you're like, but I want to go.
Do you want to go with me and see just for content?
Yeah.
And so we decided we're going to go see
Tracy Bird.
We're going to try to see Tracy Bird in a couple weeks just because it's something to do. It's to get out.
For sure.
Yeah.
The day that my wife and I went to see Tenet the day we could at the movie theater, because it had been 4 or 5 months. It made my head hurt, but it felt good to be back at the back in the movie theater, right?
Yeah. One last question for you, my friend Chris, and here's what we all want to know.
No. So what is your favorite concert of all time?
All time.
Favorite live show, I suppose.
The best show I've ever seen was 2004 XL Energy Center, night 3 of 3 to see Prince.
Told you. So that's the one show I've never seen, and I wish I would have. I think the last time he toured here, it was like $200-$400 a ticket.
Jared's a massive Prince fan, which earlier episodes that really came out.
Yeah.
What made it so special?
It just showed that he had a command of what an entertainer is. And I wish other artists could take a master class from him, because he was so good and so engaging. And he had, I judge shows by the connection between the artist and the audience. And it couldn't have been, more passionate that night. And obviously there are many others like Garth Brooks and Foo Fighters. And there's so many that are so good like him. But that was just one that stood out for the ages because it was in his home market, and the energy was raised to a whole different level. And it was the last time, unfortunately, I had a chance to see him. And I just don't know if people realize how good he was. He was special.
Yeah, that's one of those shows I should have gone. And, every once in a while, I think the last one, Slash was in town playing at down at the Van Buren where it's 3,000 people. And I was like, I really should go to that show. I haven't seen Slash. GNR, you probably need a bucket list and just check that off and be like, I'm not that big a fan of it, but he's a dude and he's a name.
It's one of those you need to see.
Yeah. So.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. Thanks for being gracious with your time. We appreciate you here at the Fest Podcast. Thank you so much. Thanks, and good luck with everything that you're doing in the future here. And thank you for being a friend of ours. We will talk to you later, my friend.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Brothers and sisters, I hear you asking yourself day after day, what am I gonna have for lunch? Do I want another burger? Do I need another taco? Brothers and sisters, may I introduce you to Bruno's Pizza. Pizza is the bread of endless possibilities. What can go on a pizza can go in a calzone wrap. Look beyond a pepperoni, 32 pizzas in a snack. If you like heat, try the Lava Hawaiian. Marauder Pizza is also kicking. You need Bruno's Pizza in your life. Let the humble Bruno's Pizza lift you up from your hunger and deliver you into the realm of satisfaction. East Front Avenue, online at brunosnd.com. Can I get a napkin?